Purpose is seasonal. I didn't know that. I thought you're locked in. And so
Yeah.
once I got permission from myself of, hey, it's seasonal, whatever it is this season, go all in on it. And if you want to change it, you change it. And that took the pressure off. And then once I found, so I have two purposes in life this season, what I tell people, and it's been actually a 20-year season for both. One of them is my wife and kids. My purpose is to provide for them, to protect them, and to prepare them for this world. So I
Mhm.
love that. I put family
Yeah.
first above everything else, and I commingle family with everything. So when people say, like, what's your job like? What's your work like? I'm like, I wake up on Mondays excited to come to my second purpose, which is helping people heal at a soulful, spiritual, emotional, mental, like all the levels mixed together of whatever's holding them back. And so I'm a 7 day a week kind of guy. I'm with my family 7 days a week, with work 7 days a week, and I have found a way to blend it all. I mean, it's a purpose driven life.
Yeah. I love that, man. And you and I, this is part of the reason why you and I, mesh so well, because we talk about family a lot being kind of the focus of our lives, and then going out and healing the world, so to speak, right? And the ways that we do it. And being a person in recovery, and you working hands on with people in recovery, there's just a lot of similarities. But I want to go back to what you said before. Two things. One was purpose being seasonal. I totally agree. In Japanese culture, they call it, ikigai, which, is kind of reason for living. And people have multiple reasons for living as they continue to live their lives. And so I find that for a lot of guys, especially when I work with them, that being locked into their purpose, or the opposite, not knowing what their purpose is and feeling like they needed to figure out the singular purpose, really creeps up a lot of their biggest fears, right? But I also know that sometimes to find our purpose, we have to go through hell, and we have to go through that dark night of the soul to discover what that next purpose is. So I know you alluded to it at the beginning. Why don't we just jump in, right? Like, how did we get to you in Pacific Shores, and then writing a book and being able to do what you do today?
So, long story short, I said, okay, God, I think I'm ready. What do you want me to do? And then all this stuff just started happening. And I'm like, are you sure you want me to do this? So, what got me into addiction, actually, I didn't know this at the time. So, there's always peace found somewhere in the pain, there's always a gift. So, at 8 years old, I actually walked in on my aunt. She had OD'd and she was on the floor in my room. And
Mm.
so basically what happened is she was out of rehab. They kicked her out. She came to live with us until she could get back on her feet. I had bunk beds in my room, so I got our fun, crazy, just loving aunt getting to stay with me. She was awesome with kids. And I just remember, I don't know where it's coming home from, if it was school or what, but she remember walking in. She was asleep on the floor, and so here I am, this little kid walking, and as I'm walking, I can feel like all these pills crunching below my feet. And as I'm going through, I'm walking. I'm not really sure what's going on, but I literally just kind of start shaking her. And as a kid, I just remember it felt so lifeless, like she wasn't asleep, but I couldn't quite put it together. So I went and grabbed my mom. My mom came in, fortunately revived her. So she did survive that. But with two kids, my mom ended up saying, listen, you just put our kids in harm's way. I got to ask you to leave. I love you, but I can't have this. And then unfortunately, similar thing happened again about 2 months later, and she passed. So I actually blacked that memory out for I don't know how long. And then as I started doing some of the work that we do here, I started to recognize that this was my first introduction to actually drugs. And so that put me on a complete different path of after school, of not knowing purpose, and just kind of one thing would lead to another, and connected with some of my family that was just giving back, and said a prayer. And the next day I basically quit everything, jumped all in, and just learned of how to just connect with individuals, find out what's hurting, why it's hurting, and by asking questions. I'm kind of known as that guy who asks a lot of, depending on who you ask. Some people say dumb questions, some people say great questions, but I'm not afraid to look like an idiot or to be wrong. And because of that, it's kind of become a superpower where I'm able to ask questions and get things at such a basic level that I can understand. I tell people I learn best at about a fourth grade level. So if we can dumb it down to that fourth grade level, I'm like, I actually understand this. What if we add this, try this, and then I go and I try it with some of our clients, it works, and we try bringing it into the center, it works, and then that's kind of what led to this after 20 years of trial and error, finding out what works, why it works, how it works, and saying, guys, here are the tools. The tools are ahead of you. All you got to do is apply and do the work.
I love this. You know, I mean, and I've heard this story before, right? And it always catches me in those moments where, you know, you're walking into a room at 8 years old and a family member is literally ODing, right? Being pushed out of the house because it's not safe, right? Being exposed to these things, going through your own, you know, kind of trial and error period, and then stumbling across this idea that, wait, maybe I'm here to do this for other people, to help people not be exposed to that kind of thing, right? And so one of the things he said I really appreciate is that you're not afraid to be wrong. You're not, afraid of essentially making a fool of yourself. Where did that come from? How did you get to that level where? And I know for people who are watching this or will be watching this later on, you know, one of the deepest fears is failure, right? And so, how did you get to that point where that matters not so much in your world now?
So, from a lot of being wrong, from a lot of failure. You know, it's so funny. It seems like we spend the first portion of our life like afraid of all these things, and when you look at it from just a basic standpoint, it's fight or flight. So
Yeah.
once I began to recognize it and realize from studying psychology and different things, of going, wait, we're hardwired this way, and it's protected us to make sure generations continue to go on and on and on over, you know, hundreds of thousands of years. So when I recognized this, I'm like, okay, I'm not messed up. I'm not the one with all this crap. This is actually hardwired into my DNA. So
Mm,
let me test this theory, and it comes back to being okay with being wrong. What if my thinking's wrong? So first, by questioning, it's one of the codes we talk about in the center and also in our book, but it's the code of collision. If I can collide with my own thoughts and my own internal narrative, now I can start looking at, well, okay, let's assume I'm wrong. Let's start asking other people. And as I started finding out, person after person after person, we're all very, very similar.
yeah.
We all like in the experience, and in full transparency, when we first came on, my first experience was like, oh crap, okay, he looks so cool, what if I don't look cool? Okay, he's going to ask good questions, what if I mess up? And so I'm out of the experience.
Hmm.
And this is human nature. Anytime, we're always looking at our perspective of what the other person might think of us. So when I give myself permission to go, okay, maybe I totally bombed this thing. Maybe I'm terrible, never get asked back, but I want to connect with this individual. So regardless of what the outcome is, be here now, be okay to look stupid, to be wrong, and to continue learning. And as I started just speaking openly about this, person after person is like, bro, me too. Like, I'm
Yeah.
terrified you're going to judge me. And I'm like, the crazy thing is I am judging you, but I'm still okay with it. And you're judging me. And we're human. So what if we just allowed each other to be human? And when we do screw up, we just say, hey, I think I blew it back here. Can you help walk me through and run me through? And it creates such this beautiful spiritual connection. And once we're okay with being wrong, now I don't have this belief that I have to be perfect, because I'm human. We're not going to be perfect. And I
Yep.
have permission to live life authentically of how I want to and what makes me happy. And it's such a freeing way to live.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, one of my good friends, he would always say, don't believe everything you think, right? And I think that's so true. And, you know, when I work with my guys, and you and I have experience with different personal development programs, you know, to go in and challenge the story, right? That's running that moment or running your life, and finding proof and evidence that it's not true, and breaking that down and replacing it and learning from that experience. It accelerates your, you know, belief in yourself, and it accelerates your growth. And I think the best way to get over failure is to be willing to fail and actually experience failure, right? We've all experienced failure at some degree, some more than others, right? But over time, just like anything, we can become desensitized to it, and it becomes something of a strength for us.